have said that I want to go to college, I want to go to vocational school? How many persons have said, well, I'm too old, I can't do that? Sometimes we say we have these limits that we put on ourselves, but I want to tell you something that how many persons were in high school in grade 7 was on the honor roll, and so they knew that when they got in grade 12, they had their life, they knew what they wanted to do. How many persons were like that? Honor roll, so they were good students. Oh, that's good. How many persons do we have any persons in there who, in terms of education, was those, we call it the D and F students, the doing fine students? Do we have any of them in here? That's you.
The F though, but I was
D and F. Well, I want to tell you, when we look at students, just like how we say this cup is broken, and sometimes students who are the D and F students, we look at them just like this cup. And what we say that we are going to do with them, we're going to discard them because what? They're broken in a system, and so we say we put them away. But education is, I consider it an opportunity for anyone that if you have a desire, if you have a dream, if you have if you see yourself actually accomplishing more than you can ever think about, education will get you there. I say this because I know of incidents. I've worked, as I said, I'm the president of the Bahamas Primary School Student of the Year organization, and we honor the top primary school students of the year. So I big up all the students who are focused and they know what they're doing. If you ask some of the students in grade 6, they say, I want to be a doctor when I grow up. And I have looked at some of my students, 20 years I've been doing this. And my first winner is now a medical doctor. She knew she wanted in grade 6 to be a medical doctor. Today she's Dr. Vashti Darling. And so education gets us to that point. But everyone doesn't start that way. Everyone's road is not as smooth as that. Sometimes they're broken. I know a young man, and I usually, I've gotten his permission to tell the story. I knew a young man who was in grade 7, got okay grades, grade 8, got some grades that was not so good and had to repeat grade 8, went into grade 9, went into grade 10, got 3 Fs and 2 Ds, and got kicked out of the school that he was attending. And let me tell you about education. Everyone in grade 10 was talking about where they were going to school, and this young man said that he wanted to go to school in Canada because I guess he heard all of these. He said he heard all of the students in his class talking about they want to go to school to Canada. But grade 10 got kicked out. He was at a private school, and the private school said, he had to part company. And so I understand from him that his parents said that they tried to get into 3 other private schools. No one would accept him. So he had to go to a government school. Now, I always tell people, the road to an education, you can get a quality education in the private, public, but it's what you want out of your educational experience. Well, he said he went to a public school. He cried every day because he was embarrassed that he spent the majority of his life in private school and now in a public school, and spent 2 years at the public school, and he said his high school guidance counselor, and that's why I tell you, people can change or make a change in your life. His guidance counselor told him that he can go to college, or he should go to college. And how many persons have told persons they want to go to college, and people tell them, your grades is not going to get you there. You do not have grades good enough to go. But his high school guidance counselor convinced him. I heard he tried to get into the college of the Bahamas because all his friends were going there, and he didn't get in. So he had to go and work. And his high school guidance counselor continued to prod until worked for that 1 year, and his guidance counselor said, you know what, you can go to college. She convinced him to go to college. She convinced him that he can go. In February of 1986, she took a group of 16 students, out of 16, one went to the school and went to the college. And I'm told that the young man, when she got him to the campus, she said, guess what? This is your opportunity to change your world. She said, you will return to the school in August, that you will become an honor roll scholar. You will, there was a Bahamian who was the student body president, and she told him that he'll be the student body president, and that he would graduate with honors, things that he had never been able to do. Young people, I want to tell you that is the power of what someone speaking into your life and what education will do to you. Let me tell you, I am the young man who in 1983 flunked out of St. Augustine's College after I received 3 F's and 2 D's. No other school accepted me. R.M. Bailey accepted me. I cried. I didn't like R.M. Bailey. I didn't want to go to R.M. Bailey. But I met a guidance counselor by the name of Zoe Powell who changed my life. When in 1986 I went to Bethune-Cookman on a college tour, she said, Ricardo, you will return here. She said, you will graduate with honor. She said, you will become the student body president. I'd never been considered myself a leader. I'd never been on the honor roll. Never. Now I expect all my children to be on the honor roll, but I was never on the honor roll, so I'm in high school, I never gave my parents that opportunity. But I went to college in August of 1986. And let me tell you about college. I had freedom. There was a party every night. I was just like, wow, no parents, no, and I just thought that this was going to be this fun time. And then about 2 weeks, 3 weeks there, I said, you know what? It's only a bunch of freshmen at every event. And so I said, you know, I didn't come here for this. Buckle up. At the end of my first semester, I received a 3.83. And the first time in my life I'd ever gotten there. At the end of my freshman year, I was most outstanding freshman. At the end of my sophomore year, I was most outstanding sophomore. At the end of my junior year, I was most outstanding junior. And I ran for student body president. I became the president of the student government. In my senior year, I graduated April 23rd, 1990. And I want to tell you again, young people, I want you to see, just like how that picture in the back there, I want you to look at where you want to be. Look at things that, see, no one can put a limit on you, only you.
Yep.
And you have to be able to think outside the box that, you know what, I'm going to be able to accomplish anything that I want to. April 23rd, I graduated from Bethune-Cookman with a Bachelor of Science degree with psychology. I graduated the top of my psychology class. I graduated, I was the student body president, and I'm in church, so I have to tell the people that, you know, some of the things that you say, and you say that these things that we want to happen in our lives can happen. At graduation, as the student body president, the student body president gets to speak at graduation. And our president, Dr. Oswald P. Bronson, said, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you, in his final time as president of the student body, and the future prime minister of the Bahamas. No, I'm not running for politics. So don't worry about it. Ricardo DeVoe. And guess what I told my president? I said, since you said I'm going to be the prime minister of the Bahamas, I'm coming back to your school to be the commencement speaker one day. Because I looked at it and I said, you know what? If he said I'm going to be prime minister, I may not be prime minister, but I'll be probably someone famous, and they can invite me back to come back to the school to speak. And in 2004, he retired, and I got upset because I was like, you tell me I can be the prime minister, you retiring, so how are you going to invite me back to come to speak your school? But I just want to tell you, again, when you have your mind set on something and you believe God, anything can make it happen. I want to tell you, after Bethune-Cookman, I went to Nova Southeastern University. I graduated from Nova 2 years later with 2 master's degrees, one in human services, one in human resource management. When I was at Nova Southeastern University, I was student body president again, and I was the Florida College Student of the Year finalist. Represented my school, was the first student from my school. There were 7 finalists. Only 1 was a male and only 1 was black, and that was me. I came back home to the Bahamas, and I started the Bahamas Primary School Student of the Year Awards program because of an idea that I had while in college. But let me tell you, and as I wrap up this part so that we'll know that education can take you and transform your life. As I said, I was a young man who, if I had looked at what education was, and when I look at some of the persons who were in my class at St. Augustine's, and when some of them look at me, they was like, boy, Ricardo, I'd never think that you would have been here. Let me tell you, Bethune-Cookman had a new president in 2004. 4 years later, she came to the Bahamas to visit, and she visited she came to pay a courtesy call on the government, and the Bethune-Cookman is a Methodist school, so they're connected with Queens College. And so the Methodist Church, Queens College, and Bethune-Cookman Board of Trustees and President came, and they had a visit at Queens College, they had a visit to the Government House, and the visit at Government House, they wanted me to represent the alumni. So I went to Government House, and I walked into Government House with all of these persons from Bethune and Queens College, and the Governor General was Arthur Hanna, and he was like, Ricardo, what you doing here? So I guess the woman, the president of Bethune wanted to know, how does the Governor General know me and know me by name, first name? But he knew me because of the student of the year. Every year we would go up to Government House. And so I guess they listened, and so he told them a little about Ricardo DeVoe. The next day we had a courtesy call on the Minister of Education. I worked at the Ministry of Youth. I was in charge of the Self-Starter program. The minister was Carl Bethel. And when we went there, Carl Bethel thought I was in this meeting because I worked at Ministry of Youth. And so he was telling the president about the work that I was doing at the Ministry of Youth, and also what I would do on my outside of the primary school student of the year. And again, the president listened. The next day we had a reception for the president at Atlantis. And the president made an announcement, and she says, ladies and gentlemen, she says, Ricardo DeVoe, I need you to please stand. So I stood up, and she says, ladies and gentlemen, in May of 2009, Ricardo DeVoe will serve as the commencement speaker for Bethune-Cookman. And I'm looking at this woman, it's like, how is this? I mean, I've never spoken this to her, but I want to tell you, again, in 1990 at my graduation, I saw myself one day speaking at Bethune's graduation. May 2009, at the age of 42, I walked on a stage to deliver a commencement address to Bethune-Cookman. Education will take you to places where you don't think, and God will ensure that you get there. I walked on the stage to deliver a commencement address to the graduates of Bethune-Cookman, the youngest individual, one of the youngest individuals, because the youngest individual was in 1958, and that was Martin Luther King. In 1972, it was Scoretta Scott King. Anyone know her?
Yeah,
okay, in 1978, the commencement speaker was Sir Lyndon Pinley. In 1990, it was Jim Williams, who was the CEO of Warner Lambert Company. In 10 years prior to me was Bill Cosby. 5 years prior to me was Ben Carson, Dr. Ben Carson. 4 years prior to that was the governor of Florida. Ain't none of them sounded like me. But at May 2009, at the age of 42, I delivered a commencement address. One of the youngest individuals, the second from the Bahamas, walked off stage, and the next thing, well, of course, if you deliver a commencement address at a university, the one thing that they do is they confer upon you an honorary doctorate degree. And so I am an honorary doctorate from Bethune-Cookman. But I say that is that education will take you to anywhere that you need to go. You have to believe, and you have to say that I can do it. You cannot allow yourself to limit to say, well, you know what, I'm a DNF student, so I'll always be a DNF student. I can't dream beyond where I see. I take my glasses off because I can still see, because God has allowed me to know that wherever I intend to go. Education will get me to the door. And that's what you have to do as young people, as singles, to know that, guess what? Any door you can walk through. You have to just believe in your mind to say that, you know what? Yes, I may be limited because I did not have the education, but guess what? I can get there. And I want you to know that it may take you a little longer, but you can get there. And that's what you have to believe, is that any door is able to open up. Just believe. And so I want to tell you, young people, don't allow anyone, don't allow any situation to say that I cannot accomplish anything. Let me tell you, I look at it like this. I'm going to be, when I leave this world, I want to be like what Miles Monroe said. I want to die empty. I want to be someone who impacts the world. I want to be someone who impacts generations to come. I look at it like this. My education will allow me to make a difference in the lives of so many persons, and that is what I want. When I am gone, when I have died, when I have been emptied of everything inside of me, I want them to say that, you know what? Here lies someone who went back to God, emptied, poured out everything in him so that others may be better. That's what your goal should be as young people. That you will die also empty, that you will strive for the goals that you need to achieve, and that education will be the doors that you walk through. I just thank you very much. And so at the end, I guess you can ask any questions. But again,